David Friesen was born in the Ukraine in 1911 and fled to Winnipeg after the Russian Revolution. They arrived destitute and penniless. Katherine Lowen was born in 1918 in Russia, coming to Canada when she was 4. In 1934, David went to the University of Manitoba and graduated from the Faculty of Law. Katherine graduated from the University of Winnipeg in 1943 and became a school teacher. The couple married that same year. Early on, Katherine was earning $50 a month as a teacher, and David, as a young lawyer, would often accept chickens, eggs, or pies in lieu of payment. David wanted more, but his first business venture had nothing to do with home building.
His first business venture was not Qualico. It was a company called Stangrad Shoes, which he bought out of receivership. You know, he was managing it while maintaining his law office, so he was probably working 18 hours a day. He soon realized he'd got himself into a real pickle with this. And over a couple of years, though, he managed to set it on a course, and he got his money back and some life experience. And like a lot of successful businessmen, they don't meet success on their first venture. But it just showed his optimistic view of the world and his relentless character. He just carried on.
My mother was a huge influence on the company. She basically told my father, we are going to build homes. My father was a lawyer and was not making very much money. She said, we have to do better than this. So she invited a couple over, an architect and his wife, and they had a toast to their going into business together. They were going to build homes. The two of them said, we don't know how we're going to do this. And she said, well, you're going to learn.
The Friesens dug in and continued to do what they do best, work hard and work as a team.
They really did make a great team. I think they complemented one another greatly. He was a little tougher, and she was certainly softer and had a different approach when it came to people, certainly.
Katherine Friesen played an integral part in the development and growth of Qualico. It was a real pleasure to work with her, as she had a different style of management that was different than David's but complemented his. He had a challenging, demanding style of management, where Katherine's was a style that rounded out the rough edges of his style. And it worked out very well. For many, many years they worked together very successfully. And the company would not be where it is today without Katherine Friesen.
Education was a top priority for the Friesens, and it shaped their approach to life and business.
You know, with Dr. Friesen, it was all business all the time. You know, he was always giving us articles, always giving us books to read. He actually would make you sign the books out. He would have a little folder, so he knew who had his favorite books, and they were often all business related. There was always a lesson that he was trying to teach or had for you.
In the 1950s, late 1950s, he realized that perhaps he didn't have the full skill set. And in 1960, he moved his family to Minneapolis for 2 years and took an MBA. He followed that up with a PhD in Switzerland. He never really thought that the toolbox was full.
You know, education was very important to them. Some of the schools, they actually started one of the Mennonite schools here in the city, and very much involved in Canadian Mennonite University. In fact, the doc was one of the first founders and starters of that university. So they did amazing stuff, but he really didn't want to be recognized too much for it. The doc traveled a lot. He had been away for a long stay away. She decided she was going to sell some of the houses and get involved in real estate, and so she got her license, and unbeknownst to him, sold several houses.
And she went out and bought herself a fur coat with the money that she made selling the houses. He was quite astounded to see her in this fur coat, and she said, well, that's what I did while you were away.
Well, I think what makes Winnipeg unique and the generation of majority of the managers we have in place today, many of them had that same experience that I had with Dr. Friesen. You know, I really remember in his later years here, talked about Qualco as a teaching organization. We would be hauled up to the boardroom, and he had a blackboard, and he would give us a lesson, and whether it was in economics or personnel. And really what I saw from that, he was thinking, I spent my whole life building this company. I want to make sure you guys don't blow it.
I remember going to his house and changing a ballast in his fluorescent light, and he was absolutely astounded when we turned the light on and it actually worked, because he wasn't great with tools himself. So I think he figured that that was my calling, was in the service industry, and I had found my calling and I didn't need to go any further. Katherine would come into the office, and a lot of the staff members would be happy to visit with her, seek her out for her advice, and she was just so warm and welcoming, and her door was always open in her office, and she had a lot of respect from the people working for her at Rancho and at Qualico. And
you know, he was a man without pretensions. He was frugal. You know, in the 30 years that I knew him, I think he had 3 cars, and the last one was about a 15-year-old Ford Thunderbird. He didn't really put much value on those kinds of things.
she was just wonderful with the girls, always had so much time, very inquisitive about what the girls were doing, and certainly even what I was doing, you know, right till the end of her life. One of the last things she asked me was, how's business going?
I think he would be amazed to see a company today that has 1,700 employees and the diversity of the business that has evolved. And much of that, you know, is based on his model of really a decentralized organization, one in which operating managers had a lot of autonomy.
I think the greatest legacy that Katherine and Dr. Friesen left really was, you know, that to work hard, love what you do, come to work every day, do the best job you can, and you'll be rewarded.